After Jason's car accident, he claimed he'd lost his memory and forgot our 10 years together. His rich birth family welcomed him back with open arms. They set him up with a perfect fiancé. And suddenly, I was just some gold digger hanging on to his past. They trashed my flower shop. He stood there watching while his fiancée shoved me to the ground. I lost our baby right there on that floor. He just wrinkled his nose like I was something disgusting. A gold digger's daughter thinking she could marry up. When a fire trapped us both. He ran straight to his fiancée without even blinking. As the flames burned my skin, I heard his last words. Amber, I never lost my memory. You have this coming. If there's a next life, I hope we never meet in the darkness. I heard a cold, robotic voice. Jason Thompson has traded his life for your rebirth. I opened my eyes. I was back to the day he woke up from the crash, pretending he didn't know me. This time I didn't cry. I didn't try to prove I was his girlfriend. I just smiled calmly. Mr. Thompson, I'm Amber Reed, your sponsor. What did you just say? Jason stared at me frozen, like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. His fiancée, Sarah, sneered beside him. Who the hell are you? Some broke nobody claiming to be a sponsor. Get your poor ass out of here. But I kept my voice steady. I sponsored Mr. Thompson for the past 10 years. The total comes to $120,000. My lawyer will send you the itemized bill. In my past life, I'd cried and grabbed his hand, going over our memories again and again, begging him to look at our matching rings. And what did he do? He ripped off his ring in front of everyone and threw it in the trash. Then, he had his bodyguards drag me to the police station, where I sat for 24 hours. The hospital room went dead quiet. Everyone was staring at me. Jason's expression shifted, fists clenching tight. He probably expected me to fall apart like before, begging him to remember me. That way he could keep using his fake amnesia to twist the knife. Sarah spoke up. So, it's all about money for you? Exactly. It was always just a financial arrangement between us. I smiled and turned to leave. That's when my phone buzzed. Screen lit up, showing a photo of Jason and me as the wallpaper. Sarah snatched it out of my hand and smashed it on the floor, just like my 10 years of youth shattered into pieces. Then she poured a cup of hot coffee over my head. The scalding liquid dripped down my hair and neck. I was shaking from the burn. Who do you think you are going after? His money, I gasped, about to fight back, but Sarah shoved me hard. Jason didn't move a muscle. Suddenly, I felt completely done. I pulled out a set of keys and tossed them at him. This is where you used to live. Get your stuff out in 24 hours. Otherwise, I'm throwing it all away. Jason sat frozen on the hospital bed. I've been so blind in my past life that I missed all the obvious red flags. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something, but I walked out without looking back. A hand grabbed my arm from behind Amber. I stopped and turned. Didn't you lose your memory? How do you know my name? Guilt flickered in his eyes. But he asked, was our relationship really just about sponsorship? I nodded. Isn't that what he wanted? Last time, he denied our love. This time I was giving him exactly what he asked for. The hospital door wasn't fully closed. And I heard Sarah's voice drift out. Jason, would you really settle for someone like her? Silence. Then Jason sighed back then. I was living off their charity. I had no say in anything. Calling her my girlfriend is generous. I was more like a pet. Her family adopted and controlled. He kept trashing me, my personality, my habits, like putting me down would make him feel more secure. I remembered him once telling me he couldn't live without me. He burned his hands cooking for me, left them covered in blisters. He'd saved up for months just to buy me a necklace I liked. Yet he could watch our baby die right in front of him and feel nothing. I touched my stomach. Tears falling silently. I signed over the flower shop and hired a private investigator. Back home, everything looked the same. The wind chimes he'd made by hand still hung in the living room. The succulents on the balcony were lined up perfectly. He used to water them every weekend. The fridge was full of my favorite drinks covered with sticky notes. Don't forget breakfast. It's cold today. Bundle up. I ran my fingers over those yellowed notes, then peeled them off one by one and threw them away. That night I dreamed. In the dream we still lived in this little house. He was in the kitchen wearing an apron trying out new recipes for me. I wanted to help, but he shooed me off to watch TV. He never let me lift a finger around the house. He'd even wash fruit and feed it to me. When things were good between us, we'd spend whole days at home just holding each other. I didn't want to wake up. Then the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, a bank card hit me in the face. Here's your money. I'm here for my stuff. Jason stood there in a sharp suit, his face cold as stone, nothing like the guy in my dream, wearing an apron. He brought Sarah with him. The huge wedding photo in the living room was still up. Jason paused when he walked past it. If I hadn't wanted to postpone the wedding after my parents died, we would have been married last year. Everything was ready. We were one step away from making it official. You even conned Jason into taking wedding photos. Still dreaming about marrying rich. I grabbed the baseball bat from the corner and swung hard. The glass frame exploded across the floor. Amber, what the hell? Jason's face went dark. He pulled Sarah behind him like he thought I'd swing at her. Next, he shoved me. I instinctively protected my stomach. And when I fell, my hand landed on the broken glass. He looked at the ruined wedding photo and scoffed. So, why were you faking it at the hospital? His eyes demanded an answer. Why wasn't I confessing my feelings?
I didn't say anything.
I just dragged all his stuff out in a pile, ignoring the pain. Jason Thompson, do you even want this junk? Sarah walked over in her heels and kicked a box. It was the first gift he ever gave me, a music box with a little dancing figure inside. It hit the floor and cracked in half, something I used to treasure. Now I felt nothing. Jason didn't answer. He just told his bodyguards to move everything out. As he was leaving, he asked quietly, "Are you really letting me go this easily?" I lowered my head and laughed bitterly. "Mr. Thompson, isn't this what you wanted in my past life?" If he'd just been honest and said he was done with me, I wouldn't have held on. But he chose to play games. He gave me the cold shoulder. Let Sarah humiliate me even when I miscarried. Right there, he didn't say a word to Sarah. Instead, he blamed me for scaring her and made me apologize. He treated me like a fool. And underneath it all, I could feel his hatred. I just never knew why. Sarah grabbed my arm, probably thinking I was still chasing after him. So I slapped her across the face. The sound echoed. A second later, Jason's hand came down on me. "What the hell is wrong with you?" My head snapped to the side. Everything went black for a moment, and my stomach cramped. My hand was shaking, but I managed to smile. "You've got your stuff now. Get out." I pushed them out the door, tears running down my face over the red mark on my cheek. My chest hurt. I felt sick. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. That slap felt like payback for Sarah causing my miscarriage. In my last life, Jason and I were finally even. I sat on a cold bench outside the OB/GYN, waiting for my prenatal checkup. "What are you doing here?" Hearing Jason's voice, I gripped my 3-month pregnancy report tight. "Doctor's appointment." He stared at the OB/GYN sign, his face changing, something uncertain in his eyes. Before he could say anything, Sarah hurried over in flats and grabbed his arm. "Jason, the doctor wants you to come in with me. My baby's 3 months along. They want to talk to the father." My breath caught. 3 months so early. 3 months ago in my past life, startup was supposedly struggling. He was never home. I felt so bad for him that I put my own shop on hold. I learned to cook all his favorite meals, trying to make things easier. It was never about the business. He'd already found his rich birth family. He already had a kid with another woman. No wonder he freaked out when I hit Sarah. And in my past life when I lost our baby, he felt nothing, no grief.
No anger.
He already had a backup. Sarah noticed me, her face smug. "What? You're pregnant too. Don't think you can fake a report and trick your way into marrying Jason Thompson." I forced a smile. "Miss Sinclair, if you've got trust issues,
See a therapist."
not everyone wants your man." Sarah's face turned red, and she started playing victim. "Jason, why is she talking to me like that? Last time, if she hadn't slapped me, I wouldn't have had that stomach pain and bleeding." Jason's face went ice cold. Then, with his silent approval, 2 men who looked like bodyguards walked toward me and dragged me into the stairwell. Without a word, they grabbed my hair and yanked my head back. A hard slap landed on my face. Another guy raised his leg, aiming for my stomach. "I'm pregnant, too." I struggled as hard as I could, but they slapped me again and again. I closed my eyes in despair, trying to protect my belly, but it was useless. They kicked me with full force. The pain was unbearable. Sarah still wasn't satisfied, but Jason stepped in front of me first. "Sarah, the doctor said, you shouldn't get worked up. It's bad for the baby. Let's go." His voice was gentle as he held her shoulders, half coaxing, half leading her away. He never once looked at me. Curled up on the floor, blood pooled beneath me. My stomach was in agony. I could feel the tiny life inside me slipping away. Finally, a nurse found me and got me onto a stretcher. My phone lit up, a message from Jason. I didn't open it. I just blocked his number. I lay in the hospital bed, tears streaming down my face. My baby was gone. I stayed in the hospital for 2 days. Then my employee called. Someone had trashed my shop. My body wasn't recovered yet, but I forced myself to go, just like in my past life. Sarah had come to start trouble. Even after what happened at the hospital, she wasn't the type to let things go. I stood in the doorway, watching everything unfold. Sarah ordered everyone around while they destroyed my flower. Shop glass flew everywhere, cutting my legs. Didn't feel a thing. I remembered once while I was arranging roses. A thorn pricked my finger and drew blood. Jason saw it, grabbed my hand, his brow all furrowed with worry. He ran to find a bandage, telling me to be more careful. But now he just stood next to Sarah, letting her do whatever she wanted. His eyes landed on me.
No guilt.
No concern in his eyes. I saw something like resentment. He hated me. I didn't know why. Did he resent our relationship? Did he feel like it wasn't equal? Or did he hate that my family had sponsored him, made him feel like he owed us? I looked up and met Sarah's eyes. When you're done breaking everything, make sure you pay for it. Sarah laughed. Like I told a joke, pay Jason. Did you hear that? She wants money. Is this broke bitch crazy? She grabbed an unbroken vase and threw it at my head.
I dodged.
It shattered against the wall behind me. I stepped forward to fight back, but Jason grabbed my wrist.
His eyes blazed.
What gives you the right to fight back? He shoved me hard. I laughed. Jason, I never tried to hold on to you. Why won't you just leave me alone? I'm leaving soon. You'll never see me again. But Jason's eyes were full of doubt. Sarah scoffed. Who do you think you're fooling? Like you'd give up that easily? And your deadbeat parents. Using sponsorship as an excuse to force Jason to marry you. Your whole family was out to get him. Let me tell you, if you ever show your face around Jason again, I'll have someone dig up your parents' graves. My face went cold. This time, I grabbed Sarah by the hair and slammed her face into the scattered roses. She screamed. The thorns were inches from her eyes. Jason wrapped his arms around me from behind and pulled me off. The bodyguards rushed in and pinned me to the ground while I screamed. Sarah took the chance to play victim, crying in Jason's arms. Jason, I'm so scared. She tried to kill me and our baby. Get off her. The shout didn't come from Jason. It came from the doorway. Officer Miller, a regular customer who bought tulips for his wife every Friday, stood there with his hand on his holster. Behind him were two other officers. My employee, the one who had called me, had also called the police the second Sarah walked in. The bodyguards froze. Jason stepped back, his face unreadable, his hands still hovering as if he were unsure whether to help me or push me back down. Domestic dispute, Jason said smoothly, straightening his cuffs. She's hysterical. We were just trying to restrain her. I have cameras, I rasped, spitting a rose petal and blood from my mouth. I pointed a shaking finger at the ceiling corner. A tiny red light blinked. Assault. Destruction of property. Attempted murder. Sarah's face paled, but she quickly recovered, sneering. Murder? Don't be dramatic. I barely touched you. I miscarried 2 days ago because of you, I said, my voice dead calm. And today you slammed my head into the floor. I'm pressing charges. Against all of you. Jason's eyes widened. Amber, don't make a scene. We can settle this. I'll write a check for the shop. I don't want your money, Mr. Thompson, I said, struggling to my feet, refusing the officer's help. I want to see you in court. The legal battle was ugly. Sarah's family, the Sinclairs, had high-powered lawyers who tried to bury me in paperwork. They painted me as a stalker, a mentally unstable ex-girlfriend obsessed with Jason's newfound wealth. But I had something they didn't expect. Receipts. I didn't just sue for the assault. I released this sponsorship bill to the public. I posted it online. Every single expense from the last 10 years. October 14th, 2015, Jason's emergency appendectomy, $12,500, paid by Amber Reed. August 2nd, 2017, Jason's suit for his first interview, $400. Monthly rent, 10 years, $84,000. Groceries, tuition, utility bills. The total was undeniable. The narrative shifted overnight. Jason Thompson wasn't a Cinderella story of a lost heir returning home. He was a man who had leeched off a working-class girl for a decade, only to discard her the moment he got rich. The internet dubbed him the 120K freeloader. Jason showed up at my apartment door a week after the story went viral. He looked exhausted. Take it down, he demanded.
No hello, no apology.
Did you pay it? I asked, leaning against the doorframe. My family, Sarah's family, the stocks are dropping. You're humiliating me. You humiliated yourself when you let your fiancé kick a pregnant woman, I said. By the way, I saw the interview where you said you felt controlled by me. That I treated you like a pet. Jason flinched. You did. Your parents, they always looked at me with that pity. Like I was a stray dog they fed. They loved you, I said softly. My dad gave you his own watch when you graduated. He sold his car to pay for your final semester. That wasn't pity, Jason. That was family. But you were too broken to see it. I have the check, he snapped, pulling a piece of paper from his jacket. $120,000 plus interest. Take it and sign the NDA. Drop the assault charges. I looked at the check. It was signed by Sarah Sinclair. "Keep it," I said, and I saw his jaw drop. "I don't want the money anymore. I want a trial. I want the world to see the video of Sarah laughing while I bled out." "She's pregnant, Amber," he shouted, slamming his hand against the wall. "If she gets stressed, she could lose the baby. How can you be so cruel?" The irony was so sharp it almost made me laugh. "Get out, Jason, before I call the police again." Months passed. The assault case moved forward, but the Sinclairs were dragging it out, using every dirty tactic to delay the trial. I focused on rebuilding. I sold the flower shop. It held too many bad memories, and used the money to start an online boutique. I was working 18-hour days to keep my mind off the empty crib in my heart. Then, the private investigator I'd hired, a grisly old man named Detective Holloway, called me for a meeting. "You wanted to know why Jason's family hated yours," Holloway said, sliding a manila folder across the diner table. "It wasn't charity." I opened the file. It was an old police report from 20 years ago.
A car accident.
Jason's biological parents didn't just die, Holloway explained. They were run off the road. It was ruled an accident, but there were rumors of corporate sabotage. The other car involved? It belonged to a shell company owned by the Sinclair family. My blood ran cold. Sarah's family? Wait, it gets better. Your father, Holloway pointed to a name in the witness column, was the first responder. He pulled a 5-year-old Jason out of the wreckage. He heard Jason's father's last words. Your dad knew the Sinclairs were involved. That's why he took Jason in. He wasn't sponsoring a poor kid. He was hiding him. I stared at the paper, trembling. My parents hadn't controlled Jason. They had protected him. They died 2 years ago. A gas leak, explosion in our old home. "Holloway," I whispered. "My parents' death." "I'm looking into it," he said grimly. "But I'd bet my pension the Sinclairs tied up their loose ends before coming to claim their long-lost heir." Jason didn't know. He was sleeping with the enemy, thinking they were his saviors, while hating the people who had actually saved his life. I could have told him. I could have run to him with this file and begged him to open his eyes. But I remembered the way he looked when I was on the floor, protecting my stomach. I remembered the robotic voice. "Jason Thompson has traded his life for your rebirth." In the previous timeline, he had died.
Why?
Maybe he found out the truth, and the Sinclairs killed him. Maybe his sacrifice wasn't romantic. Maybe it was guilt. I closed the folder. I need proof that connects Sarah to my parents' accident. The trial was postponed again, conveniently scheduled for after Jason and Sarah's wedding. They wanted the media spectacle of the royal wedding to drown out the gold digger narrative. I wasn't invited, obviously, but I didn't need an invitation to the venue. It was being held at the Sinclair estate, a sprawling manor on the cliffs. I spent the weeks leading up to the wedding sending anonymous packages to Jason. Not threats, just copies of old photos. Jason and my dad fishing. Jason and my mom baking. And finally, a copy of the police report from the night his parents died, with the Sinclair name highlighted. I didn't send the proof of the murder. I just planted the seed of doubt. On the day of the wedding, a storm was brewing. The sky was a bruised purple. I sat in a rental car a mile from the estate, my phone hooked up to a live stream. The ceremony was extravagant. Sarah looked like a princess, but Jason looked like a corpse. He was pale, sweating. He kept looking into the crowd, distracted. When the priest asked if anyone objected, silence filled the hall. Then, Jason turned to Sarah. The microphone picked up his whisper. "Did your father know mine?" Sarah froze, her smile plaster thin.
What?
"Jason, not now." "I found the transfer records, Sarah," Jason said, his voice rising. "Your father's company transferred $2 million to the truck driver who hit my parents 2 days after the crash." The crowd gasped. The live stream comments went wild. "You're crazy," Sarah hissed, grabbing his arm. "You're stressed. We'll talk later." "And Amber's parents," Jason continued, pulling his hand away. He looked sick. "They didn't die in a gas leak, did they?" The investigator found traces of C4 in the wreckage. "You killed them because they knew." "Cut the feed." Sarah screamed at the camera crew. The screen went black. I started the car. By the time I reached the estate, the chaos was visible from the gates. Guests were fleeing. Security was in disarray. I drove straight through the open gates, up the long driveway. I saw smoke rising from the main hall. History repeats itself, I thought.
Fire.
I ran inside. The ballroom was in pandemonium. Drapery had caught fire, likely a candle knocked over in the scuffle. In the center of the room, Jason was on the ground, coughing. Sarah was standing over him, screaming, but she wasn't helping him. She was holding a heavy silver candelabra. "You ungrateful rat," she shrieked. "We made you. You were nothing but a orphan trash until we gave you a name." She swung the candelabra. Jason rolled away, but he was weak, likely drugged or injured. "Sarah," I shouted. She spun around, her eyes manic. You ruin everything. Why couldn't you just stay in the gutter? Because the gutter is where you belong, I said, holding up my phone.
I'm streaming, Sarah.
To the cloud. Everything you just admitted. She charged at me. I wasn't the weak, crying girl from the hospital anymore. I had spent the last 6 months boxing to channel my rage. When she swung the silver stick, I ducked, stepped into her guard, and drove a fist into her ribs. She gasped and dropped the weapon. I swept her legs, and she hit the marble floor hard. My baby, she wailed, clutching her stomach. Save the act, I spat. I saw you drinking champagne on the live stream. You aren't pregnant. You never were. That was just to trap him. Sarah's eyes went wide. The lie was out. The fire was spreading fast. The heat was intense. Amber, Jason groaned, trying to stand up. Blood trickled down his forehead. Amber, you have to go. The roof. I'm not leaving you to die so you can act like a martyr in the next life, I said, grabbing his arm. Get up. I remember, he stammered as we stumbled toward the exit. The first time in the fire, I remembered everything right before I died. I made the wish. I traded my soul to give you a second chance. You wasted it, I said cold-heartedly, dragging him through the smoke. You spent your second chance treating me like garbage. I didn't know, he cried, tears mixing with the soot on his face. I thought I was protecting you by pushing you away. Sarah threatened you. She said if I didn't marry her, she'd kill you. I stopped near the doors, the cool night air hitting my face. I shoved him out onto the grass. So you broke my heart, let them beat me, and watched our baby die to protect me? I looked down at him with pure pity. Jason, that's not love. That's cowardice. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Sarah was still inside, screaming for help as the flames grew. But her bodyguards, the ones she paid, were rushing in to get her. She would survive, but her life was over. Amber, Jason reached for my hand. We can start over. Now that I know, now that the Sinclairs are done. I looked at his hand. The hand I used to hold for hours. The hand that had thrown away our promise ring. I stepped back. No, Jason. I paid your bill. We're even. The scandal of the decade destroyed the Sinclair family. Sarah was charged with arson, fraud, and eventually implicated in the conspiracy regarding my parents' murder thanks to Holloway's digging. She gave birth in prison to a child that DNA tests proved wasn't Jason's anyway. Jason inherited the Sinclair fortune by default of their assets being frozen and awarded to him in a massive lawsuit regarding his parents' death. He was richer than he had ever been. He tried to contact me. Flowers every day, I donated them. Letters, I burned them. He even bought my old flower shop and restored it, leaving the deed in my name. I sold it again. 1 year later, I was sitting in a cafe in Paris. My online boutique had taken off, and I was scouting for fabrics. My phone buzzed. A news alert. Billionaire Jason Thompson found unconscious in his penthouse. Apparent overdose of sleeping pills. A note was found. I didn't click the link. I didn't want to read the note. I knew what it would say. He was trying to escape the guilt, trying to trigger another reset, another chance. But the robotic voice in my head had been silent for a long time. There are no third chances. A shadow fell over my table. I looked up. It wasn't Jason. It was a man I'd met at a fabric auction. Kind eyes, rough hands, a smile that didn't hide any secrets. Is this seat taken? He asked. I looked at the empty chair opposite me. I thought about the 10 years I wasted on a man who never truly saw me. I thought about the baby I lost. I thought about the fire. I took a deep breath, the air smelling of rain and fresh coffee. No. I smiled, and for the first time in 2 lifetimes, it reached my eyes. It's free. I turned my phone over, screen down, and didn't look back.